up, everybody? So, it's been a minute since I've done one of these. I think it's about 9 months since my last Gavle update. So this is Gavle devlog number 5. I have done so much, honestly, to this map since the last recording. I'm very sorry I haven't kept everybody in the loop. I definitely intended on doing more of these videos between just being busy, being a dad this summer while my daughter was off in school, working on sewer, iterating this map. It just felt like an extra thing that I did not have time for. I also think I've been putting a lot of pressure on them and trying to polish them up more, so I'm going to keep this one streamlined. I'm literally just going to fly around, maybe run around a little bit, keep it simple, no gameplay this time, but just kind of rambling. That's what it seems to be what people want. You guys want to just hear me ramble about maps, right? So anyway, let's get into it. I think Stage 1 is finally locked in. Not a lot has changed since the last video of Stage 1. The biggest is definitely Stage 2, which I have not shown at all yet. But everything feels solid. I am very happy with how the gameplay is playing. For a 2-stage map, A is capturing pretty quick, which is definitely intended. It's not too much of a fight. I might adjust capture times a little bit, but right now it's like you get a nice good sentry hold here. Sometimes an engineer will hold up here, but once that gets taken out, you get a nice little drop down. This area is not too bad to push into. It's very, I kind of think of it as Dust Bowl Stage 3 Capture A, where it's like you got that little bit of a long run, and the capture point is right in front of the spawn. It's not too far away, but I kind of feel like I was channeling those sort of vibes. I'm going for an older sort of style gameplay of early TF2. So that said, I still got a lot of dynamic stuff. We've got this door here that opens up after you capture A. It allows you to get here. We've got this lower sewer route that kind of goes to this back flank. I think my only concern right now with this flank area, if you kind of look at it, I wish I could show more of the map here. Yeah, it's a really big time commitment to take this route and come around, but it's also very powerful. My only concern with it is that once you drop down here and start going, your only way to get back is to come all the way back around this way and then up and around, which I kind of feel like maybe I need to make it easier to rotate back without connecting it. Like, I don't want to connect, I don't want to make a direct route where you can just like hop over here. Like, this would be the easiest, is just connect like right here or something in some kind of roundabout way, and obviously avoiding sight lines. But then it also allows red to push in and take this space. Right now I want this to be very, very blue dominated. Red has a hard time. Like, they can jump here. Oh god, I still left this. Oh my god, there's been so many updates and I've still left this crack. Red can kind of roundabout get here if they're lucky. Like, heavies have a hard time making this jump, but there's ways for red to push in here. But it's very challenging, so this territory tends to be very blue heavy. And adding any kind of extra routes connecting this would probably make that a little bit too easy for red to take advantage of. So I'm kind of thinking about that. I might end up putting like some kind of ramp or route or something coming back that makes it so you don't have to go all the way out and around and up. Like, if you're here and you push up to here and you go, oh wow, yeah, that's not a way to push. That's very hostile. Now I'm walking all the way back here, all the way down, all the way around, and all the way back up and out. I always forget that's here. Actually, it's something that detailing will help. But right now that blends in. But still, it's like a lot of backtracking just to get back around. So I think, if anything I want to change, is kind of make this a little bit easier to rotate back out of. Last, though, feels pretty solid. Like, this drop down was an experiment here, and it feels pretty good. I think it can be a little frustrating for red when they drop down intending to go up, but before A is captured, this is a path here that they can come down to get in, so it kind of makes up for it. It can be a little, like, this fight is a little awkward, like this doorway right here. You see, just like, if someone's standing here, you can see their feet. I might end up lowering that doorway or adjusting something over there, but that's like minor gameplay sort of things. This was something new. I put this drop down here because I felt like it was almost easier for blue to bypass the point and spawn camp than it was to just get directly to the point. So I made this side a drop down for red, and that seems to help. It focuses blue coming from the path of least resistance. The shortest route is just like this, and then up. And now if they can get up here, they can still go around and have access to that drop down and have access to back here to like take out teleporters or whatever. But they have to go past the point to do that. And then kind of same with this side. This is because it's such a long route, they get a little bit more access to red side. There's this little lower kind of thing, which honestly doesn't see much gameplay. I kind of wonder if it's necessary. I'm gonna think about this space. A lot of times I go up here. This is really good for picking at people, spamming out sentries, but it's also very, very easy to get pushed up here by red and then just kind of, you know, slowly push back. This corner ends up seeing a lot of fighting, a lot of action, which is really cool. Then they can go here. This is very choky and narrow, and then they have access to their spawn, but in general, I don't feel like that happens very often because you're so direct line of sight to the capture point, and it's such a time commitment to go all the way around that flank, all the way through here. Generally, you're not going to like want to spawn camp from there. This high ground is a little questionable. I don't know. That might need to get tweaked eventually too. But this, in general, it's possible to hold B on stage 1, but it's not something that is happening so regularly that you never would get to stage 2. In general, you want, if like a 2-stage map, especially, like you want the first stage to lean pretty heavy blue, so you always get to see that second stage. But not entirely impossible for red to shut them down. So I think I found a good balance right now where like a good sentry hold here, like a sentry nest. They don't have to run too far back to support it and get some ammo. It's pretty easy to hold this for quite a while, but if a blue comes in with a really, really strong push and takes out that nest, then they generally do a pretty good job of being able to capture, and you kind of have constant reinforcement coming up here. If there's like a engineer sets up like a nest over here, that can be really powerful. But I've also found that if blue is all streaming out of here, like if they've got a teleporter in this room, they're constantly streaming out this way, it's almost a detriment at times because this can be so tight and narrow that a lot of times blue doesn't have the support they need to actually capture the point. Funny enough, I feel like this door is not used super often because it's so open and exposed, which is something kind of interesting to keep an eye on, I guess. That was intended to be the main route, but you end up getting like kind of some sniper battles here, a little bit of fighting back and forth. It's pretty good as a spy because I can use this and kind of come under here and grab some ammo, come up through this way, or you know, get myself around behind the point. It's definitely the brute force kind of route. After A, you get like a little bit of fighting where red is like here. But generally this gets pushed and held back, and this is like a major choke. Not necessarily a choke, but it's a major front line point for the teams where they don't tend to push past here unless they're making a really, really strong push. Like this box jump is a little bit awkward, so it's not super enticing to want to take. Down here it's pretty covered, but it can be a little hazardous. So I think it's a good balance. I think the two side routes are strong enough, and the main route is kind of just the like soldier jumping up to the point, maybe a heavy medic just coming in with an Uber and just kind of laying waste to anybody who's peeking their heads out, or even if they can make it down here and come through. The sides tends to be the push more than the front kind of door. So okay, that's stage 1. Like I said, I feel like it's pretty locked in. I'm happy with it. The gameplay is, you know, probably 90% there, 95% there. Minor tweaks in the grand scheme. So let's talk about stage 2. Right now, actually, okay. So I quick jump to stage 2. The timer's probably gonna mess up here in a few minutes, but I don't feel like dealing with that right now. So anyway, like I discussed before, I got this nice little drop down here, and there's a path over here. So real quick before I start showing it off, I talked about how I was pretty far along in development in the last video. I actually got all the way to the second capture point. I think it was the third, actually. There was going to be 4. And I realized that if I continued the map as it was, I was basically making the entire length of Upward for a second stage map. I was very far along, but I decided that I wanted to keep going, knowing that I overscaled it, knowing that I made just way too much map, and I would see how it plays so I can see what worked and what didn't, and then I would come back, start from scratch, and redo it, which is basically what I did. There was a couple little things that I copied over, but for the most part, I completely made Stage 2 way too big, scrapped the entire thing, and then completely remade it again, taking some influence from the first time I made it. And it was such a great idea. It was infinitely better. I learned a bunch from that first test. I understood what I did wrong, and I fixed it. So, let's talk about Stage 2. Obviously, the very first important thing is we have a HUD working. I did make this stage, and I tested it as a separate map, so it was just Stage 2 testing. I did that a bunch. I did a bunch of iteration on just playing Stage 2, which was set up as a single-stage payload map. I just recently merged it into Gavle A7, which is first and second stage combined, and I've got some VScript logic that I figured out, kind of with some help with a few different people. Harry, known as... yeah, that's gonna happen. More known as Netmuck and Fycool, actually, they both helped me kind of figure things out a little bit. And I got it changing over, so Stage 2, the HUD changes. Sounds like a very minor thing. 10 years ago when I started mapping, that was not possible to change the HUD in that way. So it's very exciting for me to see the round change and the HUD change from control point to payload. Very minor thing in the grand scheme. It's, you know, very not that amazing, I'm sure, to the average person, but it is to me. So anyway, the big thing is I was trying to make sure I had a lot of dynamic doors and dynamic routing, so I've kind of got these doors that are blocked off. After the first capture point, all those will open. I've got like a little ramp here that kind of cuts across. But we have, let's show the opening area here.
Mission ends in 10 seconds.
Okay, so the round ended, my timers are all messed up. It went back to Stage 1, which was control point. So these doors locked and all that kind of fun stuff. Anyway, real quick, you can kind of see there's this upper area here that blue can come out. They get a drop down. They get a drop down here, they get an exit here, and they also get an exit over here. All these are setup gates. I do have it set up so engineers can build in this space while setup is going. This door gets blocked off, and obviously this side gets blocked off too. And it comes down, and we got our main route. Down here, you end up having kind of like another sewer route. I was continuing the sewer sort of theme. It actually probably inspired the map sewer a little bit, because I was having fun coming up with like sewer gameplay kind of elements. Which funny that map is fully polished on the workshop in the time that I was iterating this. I found this corner is actually not too bad to push. Blue has a lot of high ground. I wanted the opening area to be mostly just a time sink. I feel like the start of any kind of attack defend maps that has a setup timer, you get that initial grind, and then it's like, okay, wait for the spawn, come back out, grind. You know, you get that initial push. So I wanted to give blue a lot of advantages to just get that over with a little bit quicker. And I didn't want this area to be too bad to push. So it's more of just a time sink. The very first push on Stage 2. It comes around here. This area right here is very, very narrow, very choky. Blue has access. They don't get access to this upper platform until they push this corner. And then they can take this pretty easily. It's very, very tight. It's very small. That was intended, but I'm actually thinking about going back to the drawing board a little bit. And I'm going to remake this corner here and probably the back flank, which I'm about to show you. The back flank turned really, really chaotic. But first, I kind of call it the warehouse right now. I'm not entirely sure what the detailing is going to be. Might touch on spy tech a little bit, honestly, because I want to incorporate more of that. But you go in here. I put this little hairpin churn because I found a lot of time. I wanted more gameplay in this space. And if it just went here and just went right out, it basically just, this was entirely pointless. So there was just that extra little artificial needing to push around a corner and come back. That makes sure you have to take this entire building before you're through. And let me show you some of these flank routes. Like, you can kind of come in here and come around. You get this upper area here. You can overlook. You get this window here. It comes back down. This is a mess, honestly. There's way too many routes. There's way too many mazy corridors. You're probably already lost from me flying around. It ends up being, you get some little fun battles in here where there's kind of like a back and forth where a defender will hang back here and hold off blue team from taking this higher ground. But for the most part, it's a bit too maze-like. It's a bit too chaotic. Actually, let me show you further away. Like, there's this route that kind of comes up and goes around. There's the lower route that comes through here and then goes up or down to lower here. And then there's, of course, the drop down this way, and it's messy. I'm gonna redo that part. So just ignore that. It doesn't exist. I did do some interesting gameplay before I get too far away from the first point. I did a fun little gameplay mechanic where, as you're approaching from blue, you can either obviously take the path of least resistance, following the cart path, set up in here. Like, there's some good engineer kind of holding spots. Even just setting up, like, holding back here and then being able to kind of push back as blue is pushing in. That works out pretty good. Or you can take this path up here, and that gives you, like, the drop down here, which is a one-way drop down unless there's a jumping class. That gives you access to this whole upper area here as they're pushing in. Now, you have a lot of high ground, but you're also very exposed. You're very open. You don't have a lot of cover while you're up here. And then, of course, obviously, too, if you're on defense and you hold up here, you can also gain access to that this way. What I did, though, is after you capture the first point, this door opens, and that actually cuts the drop down out entirely. So these two doors open, and it just makes a straight hallway. So blue, once they capture that, they can use this upper platform. This gate opens here. They can just run straight across, run here, and run around, and that gives them this corner, essentially. Most of the time, people do run just to take the main path, but if, say, there's a really strong hold, right here, there's a little bit of high ground here. This gate obviously opens up too. But if there's a strong hold, that gives you an extra option to just sort of bypass that drop down and come this way, which I really like. I'm a big fan of dynamic maps that are changing the gameplay as it goes. So after the warehouse, there's a little bit of a rollback zone. This is mostly just to slow down. I've noticed a lot of times blue doesn't hold this space very well at all. This is mostly, I kind of use this for, like, spawn transitions. So red's first spawn is right here, which comes out and they can push this way. My sarcastic amount of arrows that I currently have in place, which will later be replaced with like proper visual cues, and they can go towards the first point, or they can come out here, and this gives them just kind of a secondary option with a big annoying sign in the way that makes it so they don't go the wrong way. And that gives them like a drop down here next to the cart path, or they can go this way and come out next to there. And that's if they're getting spawn camp. That's just, a secondary option for them. Whereas blue will get, after they capture the second point up here, which I'm about to show you, they get this spawn, which gives them access to coming the other direction and around. This sign obviously drops down, and they can take the cart path. So anyway, this area is not fought over a ton. There's a little bit of kind of stragglers fighting. You get some like people up here taking the higher ground, but usually blue pushes this back really, really quick. So what ends up being a bit contentious is this tight path right here, which to me is kind of harkens back to that early TF2, the narrow choke points, the narrow paths. That focuses all the gameplay, and you get like a strong engineer hold right here. You get like, they'll put the teleporter back here, the dispenser, sentry gun right here, holds down this lane, holds down these windows. Like, this is basically the main way that blue can push, is these three routes. Is this the main cart path up here and this. They do also, however, get this drop down, which is a little bit out of the way and convoluted. They get this drop down here, which gives them access to pushing past where that sentry can't see. So it's not just dependent on here. It's not a hard choke where you literally can only go through here, but it kind of feels that way until you learn the map a little bit better, until you start pushing this side route here, which is it's strong, but it's also really easy to counter. I've got a little bit of space, like you have to jump to get up here, but this allows like soldiers, demos to keep an eye on this spot while an engineer and everybody else is holding this down. A heavy will park like right here and kind of hold this courtyard down, be able to come around, watch the point. Snipers can a lot of times they'll have like a little bit of a sniper battle here, or even hanging out like back here and fighting this door. I did put this fence here to avoid, like this would be a really nasty sightline. It is possible to go from this barrel and jump, but then you're also extremely exposed and not very, very maneuverable. So I found it, in general, it seems to balance out pretty well. This is a bit of a demoable, spammy courtyard, but with this upper area here, blue can generally push it not too bad. I find it fun. I think it's cool. And then we're getting to last, which is the first time I made stage 2, I had a completely different last. It sucked. I didn't like it. There was nothing fun about it. I kind of rushed because I knew that I was going to have to remake the whole map, so I ended up redoing last from scratch entirely. Different from my first time making this second stage, and I am way, way happier with it. We've got the Gavle goat, the centerpiece of the entire map. That's going to be a big custom asset, and is the goal. The whole goal is to push up here and burn this down. And right now, I feel like it's pretty fun. You get this, like, after you capture this point, red tends to push back into their main courtyard. Blue starts spawning from here, like I said. So you got a pretty quick route to get up here. A lot of times, again, this turns into a like teleporter hold spot for engineers. This is kind of their forward spawn sort of setup. I didn't want to not have anything for engineers. So there's that little bit of a run. I could have put the spawn over here and cut down a lot of time, but I put it back a little bit further just to give engineers something else to do and provide that balance that taking out a sentry hold or taking out a teleporter hold benefits red in some way. So that's why that spawn is back here a little bit. So talking about the approaches for blue, I do have, this is kind of another little experimental thing. Right now I've got this side door here. Once they capture this, they tend to own all this territory. There's this door here, and it gives a drop down to a water route, which is right next to the point. This is then a really fun flank, especially as like a spy, kind of coming down here, staying under the water, and then it gets shallow, so you get exposed, and you're like behind the point. This is really, really easy for red to hold, so having that kind of just little bit of pressure coming from here somewhat steadily seems to help. The main route itself, you've got this little kind of, I got this weird awkward cover, I don't know what the hell it is at this point, but it's something interesting to play around. And then you're pushing just basically through a hornet nest of red holding straight into the point. They can hold this building. Right here tends to be the really strong sentry hold. They've got this ground over here that's covered. They tend to hold behind this wall really well too. You get like a heavy medic. A lot of people tend to use this as a shield. And then there's this little bit of a jump here that they kind of can get over and push across the water path. And that's a good little push spot for both teams actually. It's awkward, but it works. And then for blue, we've got this side here that comes down. You get this little overlook, the health pack that overlooks the cart path. This helps them take this choke point here. So if red is, say, like hiding in this room back here where they have cover and you can't get the cart past, just jumping up here and destroying them it tends to work really well. Which also puts it up here. This is kind of the back and forth, like a little bit of a sniper lookout. You can spam nades over the top of here. I used to have this be available for red to hold, and this was like the kind of back and forth sniper fight. You could go to both sides here, but I ended up blocking it off in the last test. It's actually still an old light here. I ended up blocking off that route that came up here as a test, and I like it without it. I think this was too much. It made it too easy for red to hold. You do lose a little bit of that sniper back and forth, but now the sniper can kind of hold back here, use the goat itself for cover, push forward. You know, they have stuff to do still, so they're not completely wasting their role. So there's that, and then there's around here, which is a little bit of a drop down. There's a lot of options for this. It's like the further in you go, the harder it is to push, but the bigger of a benefit the further you penetrate into red's defenses. So there's this drop down here, which is a nice way to just like, I'm up here, I need to just get to the main gameplay space and push the cart. That's what that's really useful for. You'll get a lot of times an engineer can even hold up here, or even going as far as up here, and that allows you to rotate kind of through either the main route or the side route, which I'm about to show you. This path here, it's like it's a little bit of a time sink to jump up these crates and get up here. A little bit of some interesting gameplay elements. This window right here is one way benefiting red, and that's because once you push past here, you have a really, really strong flank into red's last. So this allows, like, I've been as a pyro here, and I'll watch blue team come through and see what I'm up against and be able to ambush them without them knowing that I'm standing there the whole time. I've turned this corner as blue and just, like, half the team in this room, and I'm like, oh, okay, run away. And then they push out and usually destroy you, and that's kind of the benefit that they have. But I've also seen blue hold really, really forward, like right here. I've seen aggressive sentry nests and like teleporters, which at that point it's getting pretty close to game over for red if an engineer can get a hold here. And then this is so tight and choky, and you get this little bit. This is two ways, so you kind of see red can see if blue's making a push, and blue can kind of see what's going on in a distance while their feet are starting to get exposed. And then you come out kind of right where that water path is, that side flank that I said before is like, there's a lot of action right here. This is really, really strong for, say there's a sentry here. You can outrange the sentry from here and take it out. This, I feel like it's a little contested, like people aren't sure quite how to feel about it, but for me, this makes the gameplay for last. This allows blue to push in. Last is pretty difficult to take, and that's the goal. Is when we're at stage 2, final point, you want that to be the hardest point to capture at that point. That's how the difficulty curve should go. So that's where it's at, and I feel like it's held pretty well. For red, like they've got their spawn here. They come out, they get to see everything that's going on right outside the doors. Come out this way, allows them to have cover from the main line with this little security hut, I kind of call it, and be able to stop a push. Blue actually has to get the cart all the way under here to capture, so they kind of start, the further the cart gets in, they start getting exposed more too, so that kind of allows them to have that. I also have this, so like, if blue is, say, coming out of here, you can make a quick run across and have that little bit of cover and push them back if necessary. And also, if they're pushing through here, if they happen to take this hut, I didn't notice that. If they happen to take this hut, then you've got that little bit of cover. I gave red some options. And then obviously over here, you can come right out from spawn. Very little exposure. Push out here or come up. You've got this little bit of territory here to kind of grab health and ammo. And then this is the #1 sentry spot. And they tend to put a dispenser in the doorway, so you're very, very isolated. It's very difficult to push from this side as, say, like a spy. But that also allows an engineer to make that stronghold that I feel like is necessary to make it not just an absolute steamroll. And I've seen sentries like kind of up here. I've seen sentries over here before that seem to be pretty powerful. Those things come over time. The engineer's my weakest class, honestly. So I always rely on that emergent sentry nest and sentry holds to show me what works and what doesn't work, and then I adjust from there. I've iterated this a bunch already, so it's pretty much there. The last thing I didn't talk about yet. So blue also has this upper area here, which it may seem familiar. I actually copied the windows right out of Badwater last and put them here. This is the only thing that I've been really questioning for this last point. It doesn't feel like it should work because a sniper right here can see quite a bit. You can see like the people who are covering this. You can see this whole left side for red. But at the same time, it's such a narrow window and a narrow spot. It's really easy for us, like a demo to spam stickies up there. There's a lot of spam tends to get thrown up here. But even like a soldier or demo can kind of get a couple shots off and push. It feels like it should be overpowered, and it looks like, especially behind, like if this was back over here, they wouldn't have nearly as big of a line of sight, and that's possibly something I could do in the future. But being here, it gives them, it's like right past that security fence, right past the line of hold, which allows them to just kind of harass red a little bit and break things up. But it's also a big commitment of like, you have to come up here, you're locked in this room, there's no health and ammo real close nearby. If you want to retreat, you're all the way back down here. Some health and ammo here, but then you have to come all the way back around to actually make the push. So it's an investment for the classes, and I feel like it helps if there, say, is an extremely strong hold right here. It gives blue an option to break it up a little bit and move things along. So like I said, that is probably the number one thing that I'm not 100% confident about right now on this last. But it seems to work, so I'm leaving it as is for now. And I can get to the last part of this video is we can talk about what comes next. The goal for this map is to be a Smithmas holiday themed map. That's coming up really fast from now. So we are actually working on detailing this map at the moment. There's a few things I need to do for second stage, but first stage is coming along really nicely detailing. And I'm working with Pear again. Pear you might know from our work on Overgrown. Pear did all the detailing, some of the gameplay elements on Overgrown. And we brought him on to crank this out, and he has been working very hard. And it's looking amazing, and I can't wait to show everybody. It's going to be very close getting this done in time. We had a number of factors that delayed us. It was very frustrating at times, but I think we've got a good team together. We've got a lot of the same people who I've worked with in the past working on this. I think we can do it. I think we can get it done, and it is currently being worked on, so hopefully we will have something to show you in the very near future, hopefully within the next month. We will have this ready and on the workshop, so that'll be something to look forward to. I think that's about it. If you have any questions or concerns about the map, feel free to hit me up in the comments. I am always actively looking for feedback. I'm always wanting to know what you think. If there's something that I'm not seeing, if like someone's can just tell from glancing at this that I've done something very stupid, hit me up. I want to know. I don't shy away from that kind of stuff. If you want to get a little bit of an early glimpse at what the detailing is going to look like, I will most likely be posting some stuff on my Patreon very soon. So if you're not a part of that, I highly recommend joining, along with all these fine nerds, Agent Maxwell, Allison, and Canivian. Did I say that right? And everybody else you see on screen. I greatly appreciate your support. I know I haven't made a video in a while, so I appreciate everybody's patience and sticking around with me. I will see you in the next video with hopefully a lot more cool stuff. Thanks.